Hey everybody, welcome back. It is the Razzball Fantasy Baseball Podcast. I am being on, joined by the handsome fantasy master Lothario himself, Gray Albright. How's it going over there, Gray?
Hey, what's going on, man? How's it going?
Hey, it's going all right. I'm just getting back from Nashville. Was at the live draft for the Scott Fish Bowl, which is the first contest of that other fantasy sport season that you don't really care for as much. So. But we're still here, Gray. We still got a lot of time left in the baseball season to go.
Yeah, no, definitely. We sure do, B-Don. We absolutely, positively do. Yeah, I am right now, as you listen to this, I will be in Hawaii. Hey, aloha, mahalo, span masubi, moko loco, aloha. I think I said that already. That's all of the Hawaiian I know. Is it Hawaiian? Is that the language? Yeah, maybe. I don't know. But you know what? What I do know is I am sitting on the beach right now, answering people's questions in my top 100 for the second half. Hey, what's going on? Aloha. I'm drinking a virgin colada and answering questions. Doing a little snorkel, and I'm right now about to answer a question that is, would you prefer Rafael Devers or Trey Turner? Isn't it literally in the post? It's in the post, I think, right? I don't know. Hold on one second. Going snorkeling.
Let's just Control F. You type in the names. They'll find them. If they're not there, they're not good enough to make it into the top 102, 103. Sorry. Maybe don't put your high opinion on them. I don't know.
Honestly, though, the top 100, I will say this, that's because in the preseason, it's I spend all of November and December doing the preseason rankings, and I have them exactly how I will keep them for the 3 months of the preseason, no matter what happens. You go ahead and hit well, Kalanick, in the preseason. You're still staying exactly where I have you ranked in December. What was the I don't even remember his name anymore. The guy on the Giants, Kim, not Kim. What's his name? The Korean.
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
Everyone knows what I'm talking about. Anyway, yeah. I'm on the beach in Hawaii. It doesn't matter. But he was like, oh my God, remember the hype for him in March? And now he can't even remember his name.
It was Jung-Hoo. Jung-Hoo Lee. That's who it was.
Jung-Hoo, right. Oh my God. Yeah, everyone was like, oh my God, every hit is over 100 exit velocity. It's yeah, but the pitchers were also throwing 88-mile-per-hour meatballs. So I don't know, man.
In fairness, anyway, he had season-ending shoulder surgery, so to be fair to him,
he was pretty bad before that. But anyway, I would say, the preseason rankings are really firm, where these are very loosey-goosey. These rankings in a week's time, if you were to tell me, hey, do you still feel the same about, I don't know, any of the players? I'd be like, probably not. I probably don't feel the same in a week later. Maybe some of them, the top guys are the top guys, obviously. But when you get to around 75 overall in the top 100 for the second half, between that guy and a guy who isn't even ranked, kind of a toss-up, really. I mean, it's just I went one way with it, but it doesn't necessarily mean that I am I'm not digging my heels in on these rankings as much as I would in the preseason, because we're in the middle of games. For instance, here's one, Zach Gallen. I ranked him where I ranked him in the top 100, And as we record this on Sunday, like he just had another terrible start this week. And I'm seriously, like he's at 38 right now. Spoiler alert, when you read these, he may not be at 38 anymore. I'm seriously considering like moving him before this top 100 is released on Tuesday, because I mean, he looks so bad this past week. And that's what I'm saying. Like in March, if a guy looks bad like 1 week in March, I'm like, who cares? It doesn't matter. Like he's just playing spring training games. Like guys are trying to get up to speed in March. Now it's like he should kind of be up to speed. It's like, dude, like I don't know. One guy I will say too, because we're doing this on Sunday, so it's kind of fresh in my head. Like Blake Snell looked really good in his first 2 starts back. And last year, he had a great second half last year, right? And I'm like, do I want Blake Snell or Zach Gallen? And that's ridiculous. I mean, 2 weeks ago, that would have been ridiculous. And when I wrote these rankings, it would have been ridiculous. But now I'm like, Blake Snell sounds pretty good. But I would still anyway, long story short, I'm getting cold feet on Zach Gallen as he's just like staring at me as we record this. Like he's right in front of my eyes. So that's why I brought him up. And also I feel like he's a good example of like how these rankings they're pretty fluid. I mean, if you need a guy, like for instance, like if you need speed or saves or something, and like because like these rankings are really just meant for like potential trades, right? I mean, there's no other real reason. Like it's not like anyone's drafting this week, right? So you're looking at these rankings and you're trying to figure out like maybe trades, or maybe like in shallower leagues, some of these guys might even be like I think a few of the guys at the back end might even be available in shallower leagues. But anyway, like if you need saves or speed or power, it doesn't matter if one guy is ranked above another guy, like at all at this point. Like you should know your leagues and your categories, like, not to bring up the trade of last week, but like you needed saves. So you traded me Aaron Judge for Josh Hader and Robert Suarez. Now in a bubble in March, you would seem like an absolute lunatic.
People seem like a nut job. People
would have dragged you away in a straitjacket if you would have done that in March. People would have
you would have a new host.
People would have been like, you know what? I mean, he's trying to keep the co-hosting job of this podcast. He's doing this. He feels bad for Gray. That's what's going on. But I mean, now, as crazy as that trade is, or it sounds like in like a vacuum, I mean, you need saves. What good is Aaron Judge doing you? Like, it's like he's not going to help you in saves. So, I mean, if I can, and also if you're like your team is specifically so stacked and you have so much offense and you have so much offense to spare, it's like, yeah, why not do Aaron Judge for Josh Hader and Robert Suarez? I honestly don't have any problems with the trade you made. Not just because I was on the other end of it.
Not because you got Aaron Judge.
No, honestly, I mean, I get it. I totally understand that sort of thing at this point in the season. It's like, why not? Like, you're not. What do you want to come into? You want to come in third place with 75 more homers than the second place team?
Everybody else, yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. So yeah, no, that's So this top 100, like the process. So sort of my process going through it was I had the player rater open and the rest of the season player rater open. And I just sort of like, I went off of both of them. So if like one guy, shows up high here and he's, lower in the rest of the season player rater, it's because I liked him more than what the projections were saying. And then, vice versa. If a guy was like lower in my rankings, then he's on the player rater or the rest of the season player rater, then I just liked him a little bit less. then, like certain guys, I feel like probably had more of a first half than they're going to have of a second half. But yeah, I don't know. I think I've said this before in past years, but I think at a certain point, you look at like, buy low, sell high, all that stuff. You look at that and it's like guys are, probably doing what they're going to do more or less, right? Some guys could fall off a little bit in the second half, but are they going to fall off completely? I don't know. And then on the other end, it's guys like I have hope for, like, I've ranked Julio Rodriguez and Ozzie Albies and Matt Olson, and Austin Riley. I ranked them probably higher than they have any right to be ranked. But also you have they probably aren't going to just quote unquote turn it on. But on the case that they might, I mean, that's worth the gamble for some of these guys. Do I love the Ozzie Albies versus I don't know, say who's near him right now? I'd say like Ozzie Albies or like O'Neal Cruz or Adelaide Rushman, who I don't really like.
Yeah.
But I mean, he is obviously he's valuable to a certain extent, even though he's a catcher. He's still valuable. Adelaide Rushman has no right being below Ozzie Albies, if we're being totally fair here. I mean, he's been much better, and Albies has been much worse. But I mean, if you're starting this is from this point forward, and if you're going from this point forward, and you need to take a swing. Ozzie Albies, to me, has a lot bigger upside than an Adelaide Rushman, a guy who, Rushman's kind of guy who's he's going to hit maybe 10, 11, 12 homers, hit 280-ish, but not have any speed and, okay, runs and RBIs, sure, but he's not going to have – I don't see a huge, a month or two coming up for him. But, honestly, and because the season, it's not even half over. I mean, it's more than half over. So there's going to be issues with guys are going to be, there's going to be guys who have just hot months. Like, for instance, Brandon Nimmo. He just had one of the hottest, he had on the 30-day player rater, I think Nimmo is in the top 5 overall with Aaron Judge and Ohtani. It's Aaron Judge, Ohtani, Brandon Nimmo. He had an insane month. So if he were to do that from the moment the season starts again on Friday for another month after that, then he could be a top 20 guy overall. I don't have him ranked in the top 25, but that's what you're looking at when it comes to just having basically 2 months and a week or two. You have basically 9 weeks of the season left, and in 9 weeks of the season, a lot of weird stuff could happen. Christian Yelich could be the top guy for the second half. Probably not, but he could be in 2 months. Like I just said, Brandon Nimmo, if we would have started this, if I would have done these rankings in June and had Brandon Nimmo at number 5 overall, people would have been like, are you out of your mind? And that would have been completely accurate. So, it's baseball. It's baseball, man. I don't know.
It is. And part of it is also the difference between number 20 and number 100 is 3 home runs and a stolen base. That's legitimately the difference of what happens between 25 and 85 is one hot stretch, 1 week where you're just scorching hot, or one really hot 2 home run game. That's literally the difference in those positions. The guys in the top, I'd say 10, 15, they have the potential to put up some numbers that could make a difference. And to your point about the Freddie Freeman versus, an Albies even, or Julio Rodriguez, or even Corbin Carroll, who, is
awful
and not on this list, which is, of its own merit, I think, to some extent. But like when you look at those guys, though, they could potentially put up those kind of top 15 numbers. So that does come into factor when you start to think about it. Also,
Completely. Totally.
like,
no, absolutely. Like you look at like Corbin Carroll on Saturday, he hit 2 homers. If he comes out of the gate and hits like 4 homers in the first week back and starts stealing bases, he could easily be a top 100 player for the second half. Like
he could be one. Like,
yeah,
no
easily.
doubt.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't bet on it.
Oh no, I'm not going to Vegas and laying money.
No, but he could be totally. Yeah, no, that's absolutely like.
I'd put it on him over like Freddie Freeman. I know that's my constant attack, but like Freddie Freeman's gonna be solid. Like he's gonna give you good numbers. I there's no problem with that. But like, could he be number one without a ton of just runs and RBIs thrown in here? I don't think it's happening.
No. Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, no, I agree. Like Freddie Freeman specifically is the type of player that if like he doesn't have the huge first half, which he did not have, but since he didn't have that huge first half, I feel like there's literally no way he could be a top 5 player in the second half because he just doesn't have those wild numbers that are going to get you there. Like, you know, like the big, insane, like, 15 steal second half or 20 homer second half. He's just not that type of player.
Yeah. And they got to keep him healthy because somebody's got to stay healthy on that team.
Yeah, oh my God. Yeah, I mean they're calling up River Ryan. Honestly was like, what? I was like, wait, what? And then so I was looking at their depth charts, the Dodgers depth charts, because when they called up River Ryan, I was like, wow, they're really hurting. So so I looked at their depth charts. They have an all-star team on the IL. Like their IL team, it's like their IL is so crazy good. Like it's insane. They have so many good players on the IL. Anyway, I mean, I don't know. I just want to say that it's like the second half, like top 100. It's really like it's basically a work in progress from like the jump. Like it's immediately. It's just basically like you look at it and you're like, yeah, okay, I could see. Like if tomorrow, if I were to change the entire, top 100, you wouldn't necessarily it wouldn't jump out at you as being like totally different because it's so, it's the same sort of, whatchamacallit. It's just the same. It's like everyone is so movable. It's so fluid, is what I was looking for. And then the second half, I was actually also, while I was saying that, I was looking up the second half for last year because just, out of curiosity. So the top hitter last year for the second half was Matt Olson with 25 homers, and he hit 321. Oh, my God. I would love that. See? I mean, and if I were to put him number one on this top 100 second half, people would be like, yeah, you're absolutely crazy. You're a crazy person. You're a crazy person for thinking that. Now, Matt Olson wasn't as bad in the first half last year, so I understand that it's like it would be completely out of nowhere for him to then come on and have a second half like he did last year. But he's capable of it, like it's just, I honestly, actually, when I'm looking at this, I forgot that Marcell Ozuna had the third best. He had the third best second half last year. Maybe that was a sign of things to come for this year that we should have seen. Other guys who had big second halves last year, Austin Riley, Schwarber, Spencer Torkelson. Julio Rodriguez had a huge second half last year. Cal Raleigh, Marcus Semien, who honestly, I feel like I'm leaving. Marcus Semien to me is kind of like, I think he's done, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Aaron Judge had a big second half, but he has a big every half. Nick Castellanos had a big second half last year. Kyle Tucker, Adalis Garcia, but again, he had a decent first half, so it wasn't as bizarre to come out of nowhere. And Giancarlo, oh my God, Wilmer Flores. There's a random one. And CJ Abrams had a huge second half last year. 11 homers, 33 steals in the second half. Whew, I would love that. Nico Horner had a big second half last year. And Elly De La Cruz, Bryce Terang. I'm just looking at some of the steals guys. Andres Jimenez had a nice second half last year. Yeah, so anyway, here's a good one. Nolan Jones. Remember him? It's too bad he retired at the beginning of this year. He was good. I liked Nolan Jones when he was still playing baseball.
Yeah, I mean, Nolan Jones' period was fun. At least he passed it on to Brenton Doyle, so whatever mojo he had is still alive and well, and just one random Rockies player a year. And next year we'll draft Brenton Doyle high, and he'll Nolan Jones us, and it'll go to somebody else.
Yeah, no, completely. Yeah, no, it's Brenton Doyle is out. I saw the Rockies drafted someone. I forget the name. And all I could think was like, oh, I'm going to really like him for like a month. I'm going to be so excited for him for like a month. And then he's going to come up, hit eighth, and get platooned randomly. And I'm going to be like, oh yeah, I don't like him anymore.
Yeah. That'll be phenomenal. Great. Let's get further into these rankings a little bit though. Okay. One, Ohtani, we talked about this a little bit last week. No surprise there, really. He's who your number 2 is Aaron Judge, and he's basically Judge plus stolen bases. So, I mean, there's really no argument there. Bobby Wood Jr. is number 3. He's my number 1, but that's just because I love stolen bases, and that's fine. I don't think it, as you mentioned, it's very fluid. It just depends on what you need.
Bobby Wood Jr. is really like he's the poster child for me, because for a while I would say Chris Bryant and Anthony Rizzo. When Anthony Rizzo and Chris Bryant came up, they had insanely terrible strikeout rates, and then they got really good. Like a year or in their second year, I believe, or maybe it was third year, but they got really good with making contact, like as they got comfortable in the league. Bobby Witt Jr. now is like, he is the poster child for that. I mean, he was people were concerned he was going to hit 220. Dude looks like he could hit 320. I mean, he looks like one of the best batting average guys in the league now.
Yeah, I mean, he's giving you everything you want. Maybe not the gaudy home run numbers that you're going to get from Judge and Ohtani, but he's could lead the entire league in stolen bases if it just happens. So having that on your player is not the worst thing. Nothing really to say. Gunnar comes 4, Jose Ramirez 5, Juan Soto 6, Kyle Tucker 7. I guess he is currently injured, but he's working his way back. It seems like he's going to be ready for the second half, or maybe he misses a week. But I mean, he is as good as anybody when he's healthy and as consistent as anybody. Elly's 8. He's amazing. Abrams comes in at 9. Are you concerned at all with Abrams? He's been very hot and cold. Like, he's either hitting 220 and not doing anything, or he's hitting 340 and just lighting the world on fire.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm like I mentioned, I was looking at the the second half stuff with the 30 steals in the second half. Like, if you don't need steals, I wouldn't go after CJ Abrams. I wouldn't put him at 9, but for the combination of a power, runs, steals, obviously, and potential for even a really good average. I mean, right now he's hitting 268. He's at probably, it wouldn't be a stretch for him to hit 300 over the course of 2 months. So yeah, I think he's the kind of guy where, like, if you need a little bit of everything, because that's what he does, he can give you that. He's really, I mean, the big focus for me would be if you really need speed, because if you get like someone like CJ Abrams, and I've been projected for 19 steals in the second half, but if he goes crazy like he did last second half and steals 30 bags, and for people who are like who don't have the numbers in front of them, he had 17 steals at the half last year and stole 30 bags in the second half. And he has 15 steals now. So it wasn't like he was running like crazy last year in the first half and he just continued that in the second half. He really picked it up in the second half. So, if you really need steals, that's the kind, like CJ Abrams, the guy I would absolutely go for. But he does give you a little bit of everything, which is going to help with his fantasy value. So, yeah, I'm a fan. I like CJ Abrams a lot. I don't, if I didn't need steals, he wouldn't be the first guy I would go for, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of the balance of stolen bases versus hurting you in other categories, and finding those guys that don't do either. It's just hard, and that's why they're up here at the top. And no real problem with it. It's just been, as an Abrams owner, I know there's just times where, like, I should probably sit him down, but I also know any one game he could just put up 3 stolen bases and hit a home run. It's just who he is. So just let him go, and he's sat at the top of the player rater pretty much all season. So
yeah, right now he's at like 30. He's at like 35-ish overall on the player rater, but he could be at 35 at the end of the year, and to me he's still worth this. He's still worth the 9th overall if he's if you need steals, because and he's still worth a big sort of trade if you need steals. Like, even though I don't think he necessarily could rise above 35 overall on the play rater, I still think he's worth it, because he is the kind of guy he's a difference maker when it comes to steals. And at this point, you need difference makers. Like you mentioned earlier about Freddie Freeman, Freddie Freeman could be more valuable than CJ Abrams over the course of the season. But he's not there's not going to be one category where he's going to be the difference maker, except for maybe RBIs if he were to get really lucky, or runs maybe, but maybe I guess average. But he's not really a difference maker like a CJ Abrams can be, or even like a Trey Turner, who I have at 12. I'm not saying Trey Turner is suddenly going to start stealing a ton of bags. He seems like that part of his game seems like it's behind him, but he is capable of having a 15-15 half, which is, it's pretty valuable. I mean, it's not necessarily, it's not as good as a CJ Abrams who had a 10-30 second half, but it's, it's good. It's definitely valuable. It just depends on what you need. A lot of this comes down to what you need.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's that time of year. You chase what you need. If you have Elly De La Cruz on your team, you probably don't need to be trading for stolen bases. But in regards to Trey specifically, sprint speed is still up there with the top 30. So, I mean, there's definitely the chance that they ask him to steal, and it just happens again, because I don't think the speed's gone. It's just different priorities a little bit, and he's not number 1 or number 2 in speed anymore, but that's fine.
Yeah, no, totally. He's also he was 24th in the league in steals last year in the second half. For what it's worth, last year he went 16-11 and hit 292, and that was. People remember after the Phillies they finally cheered for the guy. Jeez.
Yeah.
Jeez. I mean, poor treat earner there. I mean, he's all down in the mouth, oh, come on, guys, you can't cheer. But after they cheered for him, he was one of the best in baseball from I want to say that was like mid-August. So for like the final 6 weeks of the season. So that, him having a 16-11, 292 season, second half last year, that I believe that was mostly the final 6 weeks of the season. That wasn't the final 9 weeks of the second half, even though I'm looking at second half numbers. Anyway, yeah, I mean, it's like it really depends on what you need.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to 14 through 16, which is the trio of starters of Tarik Skubal, Corbin Burnes, and Zach Wheeler. I guess in the preseason, you probably wouldn't have 3 starters in this spot, but again, it's kind of more what you need and difference makers. And honestly, like all of pitching, as good as those 3 have been at different times, like all of pitching feels a little sketch.
Yeah, it's so sketchy. It's so weird because like by this point in the season, usually you have a good idea of which pitchers are really good. But like even going into the break, like Tarik Skubal looks great. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. Like he looks awesome, but he also he's never thrown that many innings before. So we're asking him to have like his biggest innings year, which, he could do. He's built up his stamina over the last couple of years. So, I mean, it's possible for sure. Corbin Burnes looks terrible. he's my second starter. And his peripherals, you look at Corbin Burnes and you're like, where did the K's go, bro? His velocity is down. Like if this were in the preseason, I probably would have Corbin Burnes like after the top 50. I wouldn't have him anywhere near this. But at this point, all we need from him is 2 more months of keeping the Orioles in the game with like a 2.75 ERA. So he's going to have I think I projected him for more wins than anyone else. So, and he pitches a lot of innings. That means something at this point in the season. So, yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily love Corbin Burnes' numbers, like underneath the hood. He looks like, I don't know, man. He does not look good. I will be completely out next year. And Zach Wheeler, he just had he just left his last start with a sore back. And that's the number 3 starter. But, the Phillies say it's fine. And he's been pretty good again about stamina and being able to throw a lot of innings, and the Phils should give him opportunities for wins. So all that, comes into play. And I think Zach Wheeler is still safe enough to be the 3rd starter. But, I say this later in the top 100 or at some point anyway, that it's for a half a season, as someone who I mentioned earlier on the podcast, Blake Snell or Zach Wheeler. I mean, I would still want Zach Wheeler, obviously. I still want, Corbin Burnes. I still want Tarik Skubal, but is it possible that Blake Snell has a good 6 weeks and it looks like a top 5 starter for 6 weeks of the second half, and that propels him to be a top, 10 starter in the second half overall? Yeah, absolutely. That could happen. Also, we could get back from the break and he could get injured again in the first start and be as bad as he was in the first half, Yeah. So it's it's pitching more so than hitting, I think, is at this point in the season, it usually feels more locked in to what you should be expecting, but it's pretty I don't know. The pitching looks like a mess and it's weird because offense is down. So hitting is down, but top pitching's also down. Which I don't know. I don't know how that happened, but I don't see a ton of top pitching that I can really hang my hat on, except for maybe Paul Skenes. but we don't know how many innings he's gonna throw either. So it's yeah, I mean, he actually looks him, and I'd say just on stuff alone, this is just on stuff. Skubal, Skenes, and Jack Flaherty look incredible. Stuff alone, I'm probably forgetting a few guys, but just on Stuff, they look really good.
Yeah, Reagan's probably on that list.
Reagan's looks good.
He's been all year, but
there's the Mariners are, and as good as like those guys have been all year, really. Like Reagan's, I think, he was. Let me see where he is now. So he's at 74 overall on the player rater. It's fine, but Jack Flaherty's at 60 overall. And Skubal's obviously at the top as a starter. So yeah, just Stuff alone, I guess what I'm saying is Stuff alone is not going to be all you're going to need from a starter. It's a good jumping off point. Obviously, it's better to have good stuff than bad stuff. I didn't rank Jose Quintana here, but yeah, it's still like, Pablo Lopez. Look at him. His stuff looks great. And he had a terrible his first half was miserable. Honestly, I probably shouldn't even ranked him. His first half was so bad, but just for the promise alone, I ranked him.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with it, especially in pitching. They can just click so easily, and just the BABIP gods, you can flip in your luck. There's a lot of things that go into pitchers and where they are, and just you look at the top player rater for right now, currently, like Chris Sale, Seth Lugo, Ranger Suarez, Garrett Crochet, Tanner Hawk, Ronel Blanco, Luis Heel, Jack Flaherty. Like those are all guys in the top 20 that wouldn't have even been in the discussion for like top 50 in the preseason. So
that's what I'm saying. And I not to beat a dead horse here, but I say this every year, and this isn't just a this year kind of thing. Like every year you look at the guys the starters who end up in the top 20, and you're like, that guy was available in every league. Every year it's like that. It's like every guy, like, I'm not saying I always know the exact right pitcher to grab, but there's always guys that are later on. And for a second half of the season, it's going to be even more so because it's so like, it's such a small sample of only two plus months of the season for starters. So like, a guy, for instance, a guy who's not on my top 100, say like Brandon Pfaadt, I wouldn't have even considered him for the top 100, but could he have 2 solid months and be a top 20 starter for the second half of the season? Absolutely. Totally possible. I wouldn't expect it, but it's totally possible.
Yeah, if you just look at the player rater currently as the numbers are, like somebody like Justin Steele, like he's the 48th starting pitcher. He missed some time, but he has great ratios. He throws innings, and the K rate is about the same as Corbin Burns, who's in the top 3 pitchers for you. Mm-hmm. Like some win luck one way or the other, like that. These are the things that happen in the second half.
Totally. Justin Steele was one of those guys who I ended up not being able to really like, I couldn't get totally like there. Like I like Justin Steele so much that I feel like I underrank him, even though I like Justin Steele more than I rank him, like just aggressively, because for whatever reason, I don't know why though, to be honest. It's just like, I guess the wins have a little something to do with it, but it's just like, I always like Justin Steele. Like I liked him in the preseason. I wrote a sleeper 2 years ago on him. I loved him going into last year. For some reason, Justin Steele is one of those guys that is always underrated, even by someone like me who really likes him. I think he's probably a top 20 starter, like stuff wise, and I still even ranked him around like 60 overall in this top 100, and I think I'm still under ranking him. Like it's been I think going back like 2 months now, he has like a 1-something ERA. Like he's unhittable. Like Justin Steele is unhittable for like large stretches of the season. Like if you remember last year, I remember this because I had him everywhere last year, and it was like just one random game in September ruined his ratios. But up until that, he had like an under 3 ERA for like 5 of 6 months last year. He was so good last year. And then in the preseason this year, he was still underrated by a lot of people.
Yeah, he just missed some time. I mean, that's really all that affected the play rater number. Like he's been great ever since he got back on the field. He's been the number 3 starting pitcher over the last 30 days behind Skenes at 1 and Taj Bradley at number 2. So good to see Taj Bradley back up there. I mean, it's been a road. It's been a road for him.
It has been. Yeah, another guy. Where are we at? You want to jump through a little bit? Let's jump.
Yeah, let's jump over to. I mean, let's talk closers real quick. We talked about it already. Obviously, get them where you want them. Just because somebody's going to ask about it, though. You got your first one at 21, and that's Emmanuel Clase. I mean, he's amazing. But again, for trade's sake, you go get what you need. Obviously, you had to throw in another comment in the article about the trade. It's fine. It is what it is. I'm just going to defend myself one last time just because it's here. I got to say it. But I have Spencer Steer, CJ Abrams, Gunnar Henderson, Brett Rooker, Anthony Santander, and Kyle Tucker on my team, and I'm 30 plus home runs clear of first in home runs. Like I don't need any more home runs. I think I have like 30 on RBIs as well. So like
I could have actually now that I didn't even really look at your team. I just saw Aaron Judge for Josh Hader and Robert Suarez, and I just hit accept. I didn't even look at your team, right? I wonder if I could have pushed for like Santander too, because I need more offense. I need so much.
Well, I was worried you're gonna be like, I want Abrams instead because I need stolen bases or Gunner, and I'm like, no, you can't have them. I need stolen bases still. I just threw Judge over.
Yeah, no, I didn't. I honestly, I that was the fastest accept, even though it took me like 3 days because I just didn't see it. I didn't see the notification that it was even there. As soon as I saw it, though, I was like, wait, I don't have Aaron Judge, right? I'm the team with the closers. Oh man! All right. So anyway, on the closers, Class A has been a Class A to himself, huh? Hey, how's that? But honestly, past him, the saves. I mean, closers are a mess, man. Like closers. This year I was aggressive going after like top closers, and that totally didn't work out for me at all. I'm going back to Sagnoff. Like I was wrong. I admit it, but like I go back to what I know best, and that's punting closers. But with that said, at this point in the season, if you need closers, you got to go get them, right? So I don't know if you could say because the closers are so few innings, like Evan Phillips, for instance, I have him down as for 23 innings projected. That's like nothing. So if he were to have one blow up in August where he gives up like 4 earned in a third of an inning, that's going to completely change his projections, like completely. Like he'll never make up like the ground for that if he does that, and he's only throwing 23 innings in the second half. So it's like, I wouldn't get hung up. Like you got Hader and Suarez from me. Like I wouldn't get hung up on like which closers are necessarily like I would go get the best 2 closers you can get if you need closers, or get the best one closer you can get. Like get the best you can do, and I wouldn't get so hung up on whether or not like this guy is going to get like, 3 more strikeouts than this other guy. Like it's kind of irrelevant really. Like,
Yeah.
so I like, like Raciel Iglesias, I have, up there. I have, Class A Iglesias, let me see, Evan Phillips, like any of those guys, I like them a lot, mostly because their teams are going to give them opportunities for saves. Now, you never know what happens. Like, the Nationals just traded Hunter Harvey. They may go and trade Kyle Finnegan too. By the time people listen to this, I mean, they might unload everyone. And Derek Law could be getting saves for the Nationals as of like next week. And he could end up getting like 12 saves and leading the NL for half a season. Like, who knows? Like, no one knows. Like, I like Chad Green, but Yimi Garcia could be getting saves starting at the beginning of the second half and might end up getting, with a bunch of saves in the second half. No one knows what saves. They're so fickle. It's a hard category to really pin down. But with that said, I mean, you go for the guys who you think are going to be the best. So you go for the Dodgers closer or the Robert Suarez. I have him ranked. If you go for the guys that are Class A or the Raciel Iglesias, because I think the Braves should be on the winning side of close games. But again, like up until on Sunday, Craig Kimbrell gave up 3 earned. So it might hurt his ranking on the player rater. But up until Sunday, he was like the number 2 ranked closer, and he barely is holding on to his job. So, it's like Tanner Scott is on the Marlins. If next week, if Tanner Scott is on the Mariners and they decide they want Munez as the 8th inning guy and Tanner Scott's getting every save, like he could end up having a huge second half. So, it's like the saves are really tough, a tough call, but I tried to rank them based on how many saves I thought they would be getting, even though that's a super difficult thing in a fickle category.
Yeah. I mean, saves are just so hard to handle, and but if you need them, you need them. So if it's just kind of playing the game and trying to balance out what you can sacrifice, and part of making that trade is finding the person that maybe your team works best with, somebody who does need home runs if that's what you have, or if you have, if you have Elly and you have a 30 steal lead on stolen bases, deal from a place of strength and go get your saves or whatever it is you need. Speaking of needing something, who invited these guys to the party in 31, 32, 33 Gray, and Julio Rodriguez, Ozzie Albies, and Matt Olson? What are they doing? What are they doing in this room, Gray? This is the good room. We told you to put them in the backpack room, like the basement levels. What's going on here?
What are they doing in the good room? They're supposed to be in the bad room. I put them in the wrong room. I'll say this with Julio Rodriguez specifically. He had a huge August and September last year. So, I mean, knock on wood, hopefully he finally figures it out. I am not confident in that. I really am not. He looks off. Maybe he might need the off season to come back and be what we thought he was going to be this year. I don't know. I'm not out on him completely for his career, but yeah, Julio Rodriguez looks pretty bad. With that said, I mean, I just said it, August and September last year, he was great. He's capable of having, 2 incredible months. So hopefully he can do it. I don't think, would I, see the problem with where you're at in with leagues, the guys that could get you Julio Rodriguez, who could potentially maybe someone ranked above him, for instance, say Jarren Duran, who I like a lot. I think he's, I think he's really valuable for fantasy. But I have him I have him ranked above Julio Rodriguez. But if you were to say, like, I'll trade you Duran for Rodriguez, it sounds crazy. I mean, that sounds crazy, but it could work out. Like it's like those are the kind of trades that they could make or break a season. But sometimes if you're down in the standings and you need to make a big move, sometimes those are the kind of things, because like coming in fourth place with like Jarren Duran isn't, who cares? unless your league pays to the fourth place finisher, then I guess you might care. But yeah, I mean, it's like sometimes you got to make moves like that. But do I have 100% faith in Julio Rodriguez? No, but he is capable of it, and that's sort of what I have here. Like we mentioned earlier, I mentioned earlier with Matt Olson. He had a huge second half last year. Now that was coming off of a huge first half. He was just good the entire year. He hasn't been like that this year, but I mean, he's capable of it. And just like Ozzie Albies and Austin Riley, the Braves, man, the Braves have so many underperforming hitters. God, if they had last year's lineup. Because I think they're pitching. Well, I know Chris Sale Strider, I guess, is out. So I guess their pitching isn't necessarily better. But, Fried has been good, obviously, and Sale has been good. But, yeah, they are missing Strider, which hurts. Anyway, yeah, I mean, they're still good. I mean, the Braves, the Albies, the Olsons, the Riley, I think I even have Michael Harris II way down further on the list. Like, they could all be amazing in August and September. Harris, when he returns, obviously. But yeah, I like him. I feel like you're not going to be able to find, like, maybe in the later on, like guys who aren't ranked necessarily, like say Vinny Pasquantino, for instance. He's not in my top 100. Could he be better than Matt Olson? Absolutely. Do I have more faith in Matt Olson? Yes. That's why I ranked Matt Olson where I did. I think he's got such a long track record of being exceptional that you have to hope that he figures it out and he has a huge second half. Vinny Pasquantino has no track record, right? I mean, he's like, he's basically a 20 homer, 270 hitter. But anyone can be good for 2 months. So if you're going for it, you gotta take some gambles. And Matt Olson, to me, is like one of the best gambles. If you're looking for power, you're not going to be able to find power like him at such a discount than he usually is, because, if he comes back and if he hits in the second half like he did last second half and hits 25 homers, he's going to be a top 15 overall player next year. And everyone's going to be like, oh yeah, so he had a bad first half. Who cares? He ended up with, 38 homers on the year. It's still good. So yeah. I mean, I like Matt Olson. I would totally gamble on him for the power if I needed it.
Yeah, I mean, the whole Braves team has shown they can get hot. Obviously they're missing the key piece to that in Acuna, but they could still turn it on. It's still a very, very good lineup. They could put up a lot of counting stats in a hurry if they just kind of get a few pieces going. Let's go ahead and move down the list here, Gray. We've talked about a lot of the guys already, and some of them really don't require a lot of talk. We've talked about Chris Sale a little bit and Jack Flaherty, who we talked about, I think, a couple of weeks ago. And just in general, he's looked good. And, pitching is kind of thrown through here. And as you've mentioned, they can move. Pitching can move maybe easier than hitting. It's not maybe. That's just how it goes because of the number of innings in the second half and just, one bad start, two bad starts, how that throws them. So let's not spend a lot of time going through your pitcher rankings. They're there for the people. And let's just move on to maybe something a little more interesting. Your boy, Oneil Cruz at 54. Still buying?
Yeah, man. Yeah, I love O'Neal Cruz. I probably have a blind spot with him, but I love him. I think he's probably like he feels like to me like he could be a top 20 overall guy. He just everything just needs to click. Like the tools are there. Like he's not. I mean, he is so toolsy, right? Like he could hit easily for 30 plus homers. He has speed. The average is probably not going to be great until he figures out the contact. But yeah, I think he's borderline for me. O'Neal Cruz is he's definitely a guy who I don't think he's all it's not completely there. The package isn't total. It's not the total package. Like a Yordan Alvarez, for instance, where like a lefty can't get a ball past Yordan, no matter even though it's lefty on lefty, it does not matter.
Yeah.
With O'Neal Cruz, Derek Shelton's even he's taken him out of the lineup at times against lefties, or he's moved him down the lineup against some lefties if they're. So he still struggles against lefties, right? So that's gonna hurt his numbers at the end of the day. But I still really like him a lot, especially in a second half, in a second half situation. I think in a big in a full season, I would probably have him ranked a little bit lower. But he's got power and speed. And in only, 4/10 of a season, whatever we have left, he's the kind of guy who can put up, a quick, a 12 steal, a 10 homer, 12 steal half, which is, super valuable. If you look at, I have him projected for 12 homers and 7 steals. So if you look right below him at Adley Rutschman, and then now Alec Bohm is right below him. Now they're both going to be much better for average, right? Obviously, that's no question about it. But neither of them, in my mind at least, neither of them are going to have anywhere close to the speed. So they're basically, it's just a matter of who's going to have more pop. Now I think O'Neal Cruz projected for more. They could be exactly the same. And this could, going back to what I was saying about Ohtani versus Judge, if you have O'Neal Cruz, Adley Rutschman, and Alec Bohm all getting 12 homers, say, and, then you look at their speed, and O'Neal Cruz, I'm saying, has 7 steal speed in the second half. Rutschman's going to steal maybe 1. Alec Bohm's going to steal maybe 2. They don't have any speed really. So, yeah, I mean, they're probably at the end of the day probably going to be more valuable on the play rater because their runs, RBIs, and average are just going to be better. But if power and speed are better for a second half, for just a short sprint of a second half, I would prefer the higher power and speed.
Yeah, definitely. And again, just it's the ability to put up big numbers in short periods. If you're cruising the first in your league, then maybe you don't need. Maybe it is you roll out the Adley Rutschmans and the Freddie Freemans of the world. You just coast to your victories. But if you're trying to chase stuff down, you need the numbers. And O'Neal definitely can do that. We've seen him have a 13-6 second half in 2022. Obviously, he had the ankle injury in 2023. So you can definitely put the narrative together where, now he's finally kind of healthy. He trusts the ankle again, and the numbers could just start coming versus Adley, who is at 55. And, we've talked about this before, Gray. No matter what he does, the fantasy world refuses to put William Contreras number 1 catcher.
Yeah, that's actually very true. and I'm Adley Rutschman's number 1 hater too. and I even have him above William Contreras. Going back to the O'Neal Cruz thing though, real quick, I just happened to notice Brenton Doyle in my top 100. He's the kind of guy. It's Brenton Doyle. if he goes, I have him projected for 7 homers and 13 steals. Like if he does 10 homers, I think he just homered again today. So he has 15 homers on the year. So if he hits 10 homers in the second half and steals 15 bags, like he's basically a top 25 player overall. Like he's really, like, that's really valuable. But because of the just the lack of track record, it's hard to get fully invested in the second half. But like he's top 25 on the player rater basically right now as we record this. So yeah, I like Brenton Doyle's like amazing, and he's not, and I like him. I just, it's like you need a little bit of a track record. But, like if you were to say Brenton Doyle or O'Neal Cruz, that's really tough to say. I'm saying with my rankings, O'Neal Cruz because of the upside. But at the end of the day, would I want to trade O'Neal Cruz for Brenton Doyle? Yeah, if I needed an outfielder, sure. I could see doing that, like even though I have O'Neal Cruz ranked above him, I would still do it if I needed an outfielder versus a shortstop, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And in Doyle, we're not talking about somebody who lacks upside. He's 14-20 first half, so it's not like you're sacrificing yourself to the to make that kind of move. But yeah, it's looking at the upside and taking your gambles where you think the right spots are, for sure.
I would see. I would be like this. Brenton Doyle would be on the he'd be on the diamond taking his swings, right? And then Nolan Jones comes up and he's like, "Hey, Brenton, can I help you with? I think you're pulling off the ball a little bit." And at that point, I would tackle Nolan Jones to the ground. Like, don't talk to him. Don't you dare.
Can't wait to fall in love with Brenton Doyle and have that happen. That's going to be great. So speaking of a guy that we kind of bought in on and then kind of failed us, but he's back, Ray. That's Wyatt Langford at 57. I'm sure a lot of people were looking for where he fit in this gigantic globula of players. He's kind of sandwiched. This is a perfect sandwich of like O'Neal Cruz, Adley, Baum, and Wyatt Langford, just to really throw people off the scent.
I snuck Wyatt Langford in there just so people wouldn't notice. I actually, no, seriously though, like Wyatt Langford, I think he's moved up to cleanup. Again, for a certain part of me, it feels like if Wyatt Langford has a bad second half, then it's gonna reflect badly on Gunnar Henderson because of the second half. Because Gunnar Henderson was so good last second half, and just took off into this year. Wyatt Langford, I'm hoping can do the same thing. He has speed and power. I'm not, if you can hit 10 homers and steal 10 bags in a half a season, you're gonna have value. It's just like it's impossible not to. Like for instance, like if I don't know, let's say another guy who's not ranked, JD Martinez, for instance. Let's say he hits 15 homers in the second half. He has a great second half, hits 15 homers. If he has no steals, which he won't because he's so slow, he's not going to be a top 100 guy. But Wyatt Langford, if he has 10 homers and 10 steals, he totally could be a top 100 guy. So yeah, speed and power rule. I like and I like Wyatt Langford, and in the last month or so, he's looked so much better. He really has. It seems like since he came back from his injury, he looks like a different player. Like he looks like he's gotten more comfortable. I think in the last, let's see, Wyatt Langford, he's the 28th best player on the 30-day player rater, right behind Bobby Witt Jr. He's hit 311 with 4 homers and 5 steals in the last 30 days. So yeah, if he does that for 2 more seasons, 8 homers and 10 steals, just literally just prorating his last 30 days. If he does that over the next 60, does that twice over, that's a top 25 player. So, I have him at 57 or whatever. Yeah, I like him.
Yeah. Yep. Let's move over to, I think it's 2018 down here in the 64 to 66 range. Jurickson Profar, Manny Machado, and Mike Trout. Is this a dynasty list from like 2015? What's going on here? No, I mean Profar has been. I mean they've all been good when they've been out there. Profar's been good all season. Yeah. Obviously, Gray. It's just we're just getting a glimpse back into the old times.
It's 2018. Oh man, yeah. No, I don't disagree with you. But, I mean, like Mike Trout. Okay, so Profar has been good. Manny Machado has not, but he was coming back from injury to start the season. So maybe look at Machado like look at Bryce Harper in the second half last year. How Bryce Harper came on last year's second half. Maybe Machado does that this second half. I don't think he's gonna, but maybe he will. He's capable of it. That's sort of like the top 100. It's like, what are guys capable of? So Mike Trout, though, specifically about him, I was looking at his projections from other people as well as my own, and it's like he really needs like 150 at bats, right, to be like a top 100 player. Like he needs so little to be really valuable. Like if you look at his numbers, you're like, wow, he's so good when he's on the field. Like he's like he's a good month and a half, like 6 weeks of a season, and he could put up 12 homers. It's like great. Like he's so good. But how much time are we going to see of Mike Trout? I honestly don't even know. I don't know. I guessed I have him down for I think like 7 weeks. I think is what I have him projected for, roughly 7 weeks. So yeah, hopefully beginning of August, I guess is what I'm saying. Roughly. I would, if you were in like the head-to-head playoffs and you had like, I don't know, let's say a guy below him, Lourdes Gurriel Jr. You had Lourdes Gurriel Jr., who's been he's been valuable. He's been valuable like how Jurickson Profar has been valuable. And if you had Lourdes Gurriel Jr. and you were in head-to-head playoffs and you were like, offered Mike Trout, I'd be like, that's a good gamble. It's a gamble, but it's a good gamble. I don't know. I would probably do it. And then and then under there, then we get sexy again with James Wood and Riley Green.
Yeah, I mean that's those are some sexy names, and anytime we introduce a prospect into the top 100, it's a fun gamble there. James Wood obviously just hit the ground running. I mean, having him here, it feels like it could go anywhere from here, really. Did you just put him at 69 because he's sexy, Gray? Is that
yeah.
Okay. I figured as much. You mentioned Lourdes Gurriel already. That's another 2018 throwback. Remember, like he was like Yuli's brother, but like with power and maybe even a little speed. And he's just gonna hit like 350 and hit 28 home runs. It's gonna be great.
I thought it was like Yuli's son for a while. I don't even know. Yeah, Yuli. Remember him? Oh man.
Yeah, you like Yuli. You're like, there's no way you're in your 20s. Get out of here. What's that? Where's this birth certificate from?
No way. No way.
But Riley Green's been great. 271, 17 home runs, 4 stolen bases. You mentioned him coming in there with James Wood at 70. So it's good to see some youth back in here. I have to ask Gray. I did not expect this at 72. You looked past your hatred and put Wayne Thomas in the top 100 for the second half.
I did. I know. I've become, you know what? I look at Lane Thomas and I'm like, Lane Thomas, did he suddenly become Ronald Acuna Jr.? Lane Thomas, I don't actually have Lane Thomas in any league. Unfortunately, I've grown to appreciate Lane Thomas this year from afar because like he's running like crazy, dude. At the half, he has 23 steals. Last year in the full season, he had 20 steals. Like if he's gonna run like that, hey, yeah, I got no problems with Lane Thomas if he's running like that. Like that's impressive. If he steals, I haven't projected for 14 more steals. So if he ends the year with like 37 to 40 steals on the year, he might be a top 20, top 30 player next year. I mean, how do you argue with like if he stays healthy and he hits like 8 homers in the second half, so ends with like 16 homers. If he goes 16, 40, 260, that's like, I mean, that's hard to argue with. I don't know. Yeah. I've become a fan. I like Lane Thomas now.
Yeah, and that's with missing, like a month of the season, he's got 22 stolen bases. So he basically has the same number of games left in the season that he's played. So he can just double up, like you said, 820, 250, and just 1640 is it's pretty nice to look at, Gray.
I know. I wonder where I honestly kind of I haven't read any narratives about like why. There must be a reason why, because he's like I mean, he hasn't just like he's looking at more than doubling his past like top season for steals. Like he's really come on a lot. But it's good to see.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope the Nationals continue to let him do whatever he wants on the base paths because they're not really playing for crap. So at least let him get his money and build those ARB numbers up. I mean, speaking of pitching, we haven't done a lot, but like that's one of the issues with Skubal. The Tigers are 7 games back. How many games back they got to be before they start worrying about his arm?
Right. Like that's a good point, actually. That I didn't even mention earlier. Like, what happens if they get to like mid-September and it's like Skubal is like at a career high in innings? Like, why would you throw? What are you doing? Why would you throw him more? I'd like to see him throw more innings, but why would you?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I mean, maybe it's for him to chase the side, but like as an organization, what's more important at that point? Like an award or having him healthy for the next 5 years? Moving down the list, Gray, Nico Horner at 77. He started the season off just dreadfully. As a Cubs fan, I can attest to how bad it was. And he's got it together though.
And then he fractured his hand.
Yeah, not great.
And then he fractured his hand, and I fell in love with him. He fractured his hand, and I suddenly started being more optimistic.
Top 80 now, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, again, this is like it goes back to like the like a guy who can really excel in one category. Like even like right above him, Louis Rengifo. Like Louis Rengifo, a top 75 player on overall. I don't know, maybe not, probably not. But if he can steal like 15 plus bags in a half, that's huge in a half. Like that's a difference maker. Like as much as I like how well Brian Reynolds has been playing, and he has been playing well. Usually I would say that and it would be sarcastic, but he has been playing well. And I would say, like, if you need steals, like Nico Horner is a lot more valuable, than Brian Reynolds if you need steals. It depends on what you need, really. But in a in a half a season, Nico Horner hitting 3 homers and stealing 15 bags is honestly, I mean, you flip the power and the steals, and you see Brian Reynolds has 10 homers and 2 steals projected. So if you flip that, it's 2 and 10 or 3 and 15. It's like 3 and 15. Nico Horner, homers and steals aren't exactly equal, but they're close enough.
Yeah, especially if those are the categories you're chasing,
Right.
and that's what you need. Absolutely. Right. I mean, Brown Reynolds, Carlos Correa, like they're clearly above a guy like Nico Horner on the overall season player rater. But you're right. Like if you need to make up those points, you do it. And Nico's been, again, better over the last month or so. He has, I think, like 6 stolen bases over that time. So we know he can put them up in bunches. Like that's not really a question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, totally.
All right, moving down the list, Gray. I mean, we're starting to get down here, and just want to talk about some of the new names that are here, really, just because this is really the first time we're introducing them to, where they might sit for next year. Although we won't hold that to you. Obviously, they tank in the second half, anything can happen. But like Ceddanne Rafaela, Bryce Terang, Brenton Doyle, we've already talked about Brent Rooker, Alec Burleson. These guys are getting introduced to this group. So let's talk about some of those guys rather than, the Max Scherzers and Will Smiths and, the guys that we know about.
Yeah. And the Adolis Garcia. I think so. Alec Burleson, I think he just homered again on Sunday. Like his underlying numbers look really good. I'm kind of at the camp where I almost feel like I want Alec Burleson to fade a little bit in the second half because he looks like a really good sleeper for next year. But even the case may be, even if he does do well in the second half this year, I really like Alec Burleson. He looks like for the first time maybe ever, the Cardinals have held on to an outfielder and they have done well. I think he is a legit, Alec Burleson looks like a legit hitter, like a legit, like number 2 in the order, solid power, some speed, good average, great contact. I mean, as a rookie, really great contact. This is like this section of the top 100 is like the future stars section. So, and then you look at like Jordan Westburg, who actually I wrote a sleeper post on him in the preseason. So I was already in on Westburg, but he's exceeding even my expectations. Like I liked Westburg coming in. I thought he'd probably be around like a 120, 150 overall type fantasy guy, but he looks like a top 100 fantasy guy. He looks in fantastic with like everything that I just mentioned with Burleson. Again, power, a little bit of speed, good average. Like he's hitting for a great average this year. I don't think anyone is expecting. And then Brent Rooker, I feel like a broken record here, but if you look at the peripherals for any of these guys, like their underlying numbers for Burleson or Rooker or Westburg, it's like you come away and you're like, they are actually performing as well as the numbers look. Like they look like they are breaking out completely. And Bryce Terang and Doyle, we've mentioned a bunch earlier already, but I'd say with Terang and Doyle, they have the benefit of having really big speed. So like Terang could be as good as CJ Abrams, who I have CJ Abrams in the top 10. But Bryce Terang, I mean, I think right now on the player rater, he's like, let's see, Terang is he's 50 overall. So he's not quite as high as I thought he was, but still top 50 overall for a guy who is still getting platooned out of the 9-hole some days, which is, ludicrous. I mean, it's just so dumb. Pat Murphy is dumb, bro. They're dumb. MLB managers are dumb. Speaking of dumb, Bud Black and Brenton Doyle was hitting like 7th for most of the year. I mean, how do you hit your best hitter and you have Charlie Blackmon hitting leadoff? I mean, oh my God. It's so, but anyway, this group of players feels like, future stars, if not already there. I like Burleson. and Westberg. I'm really psyched about those guys for next year already. And then Brent Rooker, I'd be more excited, except I don't know how long he was held down in the minors. He's like 30 years old, I think, or he's going to be 30. He'll be 30 in November. But I like Brent Rooker for now. But I mean, how much of a future star can a guy be who's going to turn 30 in November? So I don't know.
Yeah, it's kind of unfortunate that he figured it out or he got his chance so late. Never know which one it is. Sometimes some things click, or you just get buried in a position in the wrong organization. Obviously, the A's don't have anybody to bury behind anybody, so he finally got his chance, and he's showing it. But yeah, I think in Dynasty Leagues, this is probably the time. Go ahead and move him. If you're in my Dynasty League and you want him, send me a fair offer. I do have him because I pretty much thought this was coming. I thought he showed a lot of power last year and would build on it, and he has. So that's been great to see, and I'm glad that he made your top 100, Gray. I'd take him over looking dead Marcus Semien, and you have him ranked as such.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, like I mentioned earlier, I mean, Marcus Semien did have a good second half last year after having a bad first half. So things could happen. I ranked Seiya Suzuki here at 91 overall. He really hasn't done much to, he hasn't done a ton to really get that ranking, but the rest of the season player rater still really loves him. So I threw a bone to the rest of the season player rater.
In fairness, his second halves have traditionally been a lot better. He's healthy, and then that tends to be.
Yeah, we've been sort of done with pitching for a bit now, but one guy I will mention at 94, I have Louis Castillo. Said his name perfectly. If you look at his numbers, Castillo's velocity is down. His Ks look down. I don't know if we're missing something with him, but I feel like he's either taking a turn and become a number 2 versus the ace that we thought we were getting in the beginning of the season, and he's now a different pitcher. He's less than he was, or he's hiding an injury or something else is going on. But he doesn't look right at all. And I honestly haven't really looked for it, looked for other people talking about it. So maybe they have been, and I just missed it. But I don't know. Another guy who looks terrible, Garrett Cole. I'm looking at the bottom of my rankings here for the top 100, and Tyler Glasnow is literally on the IL. So he was actually. So when I first wrote these up last week, he wasn't on the IL yet. So I had him. I think I had him at like the number 4 starter, and then I dropped him down to here. Because he was injured, but I don't know how. I'm guessing he comes back in like mid-August, and if he gets 6 weeks of pitching, 6 weeks is roughly 50, 45 innings, maybe 40 innings, 45. I'm projected for 47. Tyler Glasnow in 47 innings could be a difference maker. So yeah, I ranked him still, but it's iffy. And then Yamamoto, another guy. God, the Dodgers are just a mess.
Yeah, the Dodgers are a mess. I mean, they have enough arms in their IL to field a couple of rotations. That would be a lot better than half the teams in the league at least. And I guess the one thing I'll say in regards to first half, second half that I think I'm starting to see a trend with, and I need to do a little bit more research. And I think we've talked about this before, is the one position that seems to just flip completely first half, second half is catcher. So if you have like a middling or struggling catcher, or I wouldn't necessarily let him go, because for whatever reason the catchers seem to just decide to play one half of the season only on offense. So some of the catchers may turn it around. Like Real Muto has been disappointed this year. He's been hurt, but he's coming back. I would expect him to be a lot better. it's just one of those random theories that I have that I want to throw out here at the end of the podcast, so not many people hear my crazy theory, Gray. Any last words about your second half rankings or anything before we get out of here?
No, I would just say the big takeaway here is like it's like your team needs are the most important thing. That's really like at the end of the day, like don't get tied up in like this guy is 30 ranks above this other guy. If you need steals or if you need a power or whatever you need, that takes precedence over the rankings.
Yeah, absolutely. If you have any specific questions about your teams, go to Gray's second half top 100 and leave him questions there. But, again, filter them yourselves. If it's strictly 1 versus 1, maybe just look at the rankings and see if they're close enough together. But always we're available to you on Twitter. I am at RazBeatOn. Gray is the owner of the @Razzball account. You can leave comments and subscribe on youtube.com/Razzball Fantasy. Subscribe wherever you listen to us, podcast or video. Enjoy your week off, Gray. Aloha and aloha, since that's all the hello and goodbye, right? That's the saying. So see you, Gray.
Late.